All right, it is that time. So we are going to go ahead and begin. Good evening, and thank you all for joining us tonight to learn more about the Horizon Utility Campus. We're glad you're here. My name is Brittany Harrison, and I am a Senior Community Engagement Specialist with Colorado Springs Utilities. I'm joined tonight by my colleagues, Stuart Smith and Steve Berry, who will be helping me answer your questions tonight. Today, we're going to provide a high-level introduction to the Horizon Utility Campus site and explain how this site meets a very real and specific need in our energy system. Before we begin, just a quick reminder, this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be available at csu.org on the Horizon Utility Campus project page. You'll find transcriptions of the meeting in both English and Spanish, along with a copy of the slides from today's presentation. This is a virtual town hall format, so your microphones were muted and your cameras are off right when you join the meeting. But we do want this to be as much of a conversation as possible. So please use the Q&A chat feature at the top of your screen to share any questions that you have. You are welcome to do that throughout the presentation, and we'll pause at the end of each section to take those questions. And we'll also leave some time at the end of the presentation to answer any remaining questions that might still be on your mind. So with that, thank you again for coming, and let's go ahead and get started. Here's a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. We'll start with our values and our commitment to serving you, our customers, and our community members. We'll walk through the energy system and how it works today and where we're heading for the future. Then we'll take a closer look specifically at the Horizon Utility Campus, what's planned, why that matters, and how it supports our broader energy goals. We'll also address your questions that you provided prior to the meeting through your registration, and then we'll wrap up with ways that you can continue to stay informed and be involved as this process continues. I always like to start with a little explanation about our approach to public engagement. At Colorado Springs Utilities, we take public engagement very seriously, and we use a framework that was developed by the International Association for Public Participation called the Spectrum of Public Participation. This helps us be clear with you all about your role in decision-making and helps us communicate transparently with you about what is and isn't possible. On this particular project, I want to be clear about what community engagement is not. This is not a fully collaborative process because we're not asking you to co-create solutions or make any final decisions. It's also not a consensus building exercise. We don't expect that everyone is going to fully agree on every aspect of this project, but we do feel strongly about explaining the why behind it and the factors we've considered up until this point. This also is not a negotiation because some of the technical and regulatory requirements can't be changed. This is also not the end. This is just a launching point in the project, and there are plenty of opportunities where your input can influence our direction, even if it doesn't determine the final outcome. That being said, I want to let you know what engagement on this project is. It is about transparency and communication and providing you all with opportunities for questions and conversations, just like we're doing here today. It's also about listening and really hearing your feedback and your concerns so that we can continue through early and ongoing communication alongside you all to make sure you're informed about the project. At the end of the day, we live here too as Colorado Springs Utilities employees. We care about being good neighbors, and that means listening and providing space for discussion and showing up with integrity like we're trying to do this evening. Now that we've talked a little bit about the overall expectation of engagement in this project, I just want to set some further expectation for our meeting today. Even though today's meeting is more one-directional, we are presenting and taking questions and writing. We want to keep it as meaningful and respectful for everyone as possible. So we ask that you keep the following things in mind. We do want you to be present as much as possible and minimize distractions so that you can be engaged and really gain something from the content delivered today. We hope that you'll listen to understand and try to hear what we're sharing before reacting with a question. We also want you to try to test your own assumptions and your preconceived notions of what you thought prior to coming to this meeting today. And really ask questions and focus on the shared and viable information that's being presented. We ask that you assume positive intent and trust that we and the others involved in this forum are here and want to contribute in good faith. And finally, just sharing the air or the chat. We use the chat space and we ask that you do that thoughtfully and make sure that there's space and time for others to participate as well. So now that we've laid some groundwork and shared a little bit about our intention and purpose here today, let's go ahead and introduce who we are as an organization. Colorado Springs Utilities is your utility. We're proud to have served this community for over 100 years, providing safe, reliable, and competitively priced utility services. We're also one of few municipal utilities in the nation that offers all 4 core services: electric, natural gas, water, and wastewater. And that full service model gives us a more complete picture of our community's needs and helps us to be more strategic in how we plan for our future. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at how our structure gives you all direct connection to the people making decisions about your utility service. Our city council members also serve as your utility board members. This means that if you're a resident of Colorado Springs, you're just 1 degree of separation away from the decisions that impact your utilities. As a not-for-profit, we only charge what it costs to provide services, and this model really helps us keep our rates low while giving us the flexibility to manage our resources responsibly. And we live here too. We work here too. We raise our families here, and we really do care about giving back. In 2024 alone, our employees volunteered more than 18,000 hours and contributed over $158,000 to local nonprofit organizations. It's a part of how we live our commitment to service. Now that you know a bit more about who we are, I'm ready to introduce you to our energy system, how our energy system works, and how it's continuing to evolve. This is a quick snapshot of our energy system overall, from generation, where we create that energy, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens, to the transmission, how we carry that energy long distances to our distribution stations and substations that power that down to a level that we carry then through distribution lines to transformers, service lines, and eventually to you. We currently have a diverse mix of 5 different energy sources that support our electric generation. The first category is thermal generation, which includes natural gas and coal. And then we have renewable generation, which includes our hydroelectric facilities, wind farms, and solar arrays. And then finally, we also have market purchases, which help fill in the gaps and save our customers money when we can purchase energy for less than it costs us to generate it, or when we sell energy back to the market when we're generating more than we need in that moment. If you could just guess what the generation capacity of our electric system is, do you have a figure in mind? I know it's hard. How much do you think that we even need as a community? So in the summer months, our total generating capacity is around 1,026 megawatts. Last year, we hit our record peak demand of 1,011 megawatts. Not a lot of difference between those 2 numbers. Our system really has to be flexible enough to respond to our growing demand for electricity. And so we have to plan ahead to make sure we can meet those peaks without sacrificing our award-winning reliability. And that really is the role that this Horizon Utility Campus is playing to meet that need. One of the ways that we meet our community's energy need is through thermal generation with our plants that use fuel like natural gas or coal. These facilities are strategically located across our service territory and serve different roles depending on their unique capabilities. Our Birdsall Power Plant, located up on North Nevada Avenue near UCCS, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, was originally designed as a steam power plant, and all of the units today can burn either natural gas or diesel fuel. Birdsall is not used for baseload energy. It is really there to support peak demand, which is the same role that the new natural gas generators at Horizon will serve, but with better efficiency and fewer emissions. Birdsall also plays a critical role as our control center for our remote plant operations, which includes some of our hydroelectric facilities. To the south, we have Nixon Power Plant near Fountain, Colorado. Nixon is home to our last coal burning units, which generate about 200 megawatts, along with another 76 megawatts of energy from its natural gas combustion turbines. The transition away from coal is already underway, but Nixon still remains an important part of our current energy mix. Near Nixon is the Front Range Power Plant, our largest generation facility. It uses a gas combined cycle design, which means it captures and releases heat to generate additional power more efficiently. With 554 megawatts of capacity, it is our largest generation facility and is a key part in us meeting our base energy needs. And then finally, at South Plant, which is the location of the former Martin Drake Power Plant site, we have 6 simple cycle natural gas generator units that were installed in 2023 and that offer 162 megawatts of flexible energy. These turbines are similar in design to the new ones that are planned for the Horizon site and are ideal for quick dispatch. These units are really critical to balance the renewable generation sources that we have and to help us meet our peak demand energy needs. Now that you have a quick overview of our thermal generation facilities, we're going to transition to talk about our different type of renewable generation facilities. First, our hydroelectric generation, which is one of our cornerstone pieces of the electric system that's been a part of Colorado Springs utilities for over a century. The Manitou Hydroelectric Plant is a local landmark. I'm sure if you've walked the incline or been to Manitou or the Cog Railway, you've seen this facility. It once had the highest pressure head in the world when it was built. Not far from there, the Ruxton Hydroelectric Plant sits along the Cog Railway, and it uses water from the Lake Moraine Dam. This facility also has a special distinction of being the first fully automated hydroelectric plant in the world. Some pretty unique, distinct factors with some of our electric generation infrastructure. Next is our Tesla hydroelectric plant, and this is located on the Air Force Academy property. It gets the water that runs through the facility from Rampart Reservoir, and it is also another generation facility used to help us meet peak demand. It is currently operated remotely from the Birdsall plant, like we mentioned before. And our most recent addition to the hydroelectric plant family is Cascade Hydroelectric Plant. And this was completed in 2010 as a part of our 2004 Electric Integrated Resource Plan. It uses water from the old North Slope, and it has enough megawatt power to power about 530 properties. So these hydro plants are helpful support for our renewable goals, but they also offer a lot of flexibility and reliability without any fuel costs and without emissions. The rest of our renewable portfolio is in solar arrays and wind farms. And these renewables play a growing role in our system, and they're helping us diversify our energy supply. We are required to source at least 10% of our retail electricity from eligible renewable energy sources, and that's a part of the Colorado Renewable Energy Standard. We currently meet and exceed that requirement with more than 20% of our portfolio today coming from our renewable resources like wind, solar, and hydro. Many of our renewable sources, specifically solar and wind, come through long-term power purchase agreements, which we call PPAs. These long-term energy supply agreements are with third-party companies who actually build and own and operate those facilities. This allows us the benefit of getting the renewable energy generation, but without having to pass on the maintenance risk or the repair costs to our customers. Just think about how much it would cost to repair thousands of solar panels after a really significant hailstorm. It's a lot. Instead, our customers pay for the energy provided through these agreements and the fuel rates, which are set by City Council each quarter. And then the last and newest element of our electric system is battery storage. Because wind and solar are only available when the weather is cooperating, energy storage is essential. That's why we've invested in large-scale battery storage to help support our electric grid. Last October, we added our first 100 megawatts of lithium-ion battery storage to our system at the Jackson Fuller substation site in the northeast part of our service territory. These batteries are fully operational as of this month, and they play a key role in storing the excess renewable energy like solar power that's collected during the day and can release it during high demand periods, like in the evening hours when people come home from work and businesses are still open. This battery storage is just one of many parts of the bigger picture of our energy future that allows us to rely less on fossil fuels, but without sacrificing our reliability. That's a great place to pause. And we're going to make sure that at this time, there's no specific questions before we talk about our future and where we're going in our energy system. Stu, do I have any questions for right now that haven't already been answered?
Not yet, Brittany.
Great. So now that we know what the current energy system looks like, we're going to talk about where we're going and what generation resources are going to help us get there. We're trying to move away from large-scale fossil fuel generation because of its impact on health and the environment. As we continue to bring on more renewables, we also need more flexible resources that can keep our energy supply reliable and cost-effective, especially when wind and solar production drops off or there's a spike in customer demand. Natural gas engines, like those being installed at the Horizon site, are what help provide us that flexibility. They are not baseload resources and instead are designed to be used as needed, start quickly, run until we don't need them, and then shut down when they're not in use. This allows us to integrate more renewable and clean energy, maintain reliability, and really complement instead of competing with wind and solar resources to fill the gap when renewable generation is not available. When considering what transition fuel we could use to help support those renewables, we really had to ask ourselves the question, what could really help with the health and safety concerns for the public, the cost of that generation, and really critically, the reliability and the technical capability that we need to meet peak demand. While coal-fired generation's been a really significant part of our energy system for much of our history, we do know that it contributes to public health and environmental concerns. Natural gas is considered the least carbon-intensive fossil fuel when it comes to fossil fuel generation, but it does really help us support that ability to provide cost-effective and reliable energy. When we're talking about least carbon intensive fossil fuel, what does that really mean? Well, natural gas burns 90 times less sulfur dioxide than coal, produces 5 times less nitrogen oxide than coal, and 50% less carbon dioxide than coal. So incorporating a limited amount of natural gas generation next to our renewable resources helps us meet that energy future and those energy demands so that we're complying with emission reduction requirements and keeping that award-winning reliability. We've talked a little bit now about natural gas as a transition and bridge fuel and the role that it plays in electric generation. I think it's also important to step back and talk about how do we even get natural gas in the first place? It's really important to note that Colorado Springs Utilities does not extract natural gas, nor do we move natural gas through a transmission system. So if you look at this graph, and we saw this before with our electric system, the production wells, the gathering system, the processing facilities, the compressor stations and transmission system are all things that happen before we ever see the natural gas in our system. 100% of the natural gas in our system is purchased from energy infrastructure companies. Right now, we work with Kinder Morgan, which is our current natural gas provider. They are the ones that extract or frack, process, deliver the natural gas to us through their transmission pipelines. We then receive it at one of our gate stations. We have 5 gate stations currently, and that is where it is connected to our distribution system. So again, everything before number 6, we do not own or operate or have any influence over until we receive the natural gas in our system at our gate stations, and then we do manage and control it once it moves through our distribution systems to you all as our customers. One other exciting piece about the Horizon Utility Campus is we're adding 2 new gate stations, one for our current provider, Kinder Morgan, and then one for a new energy provider as we move forward. When we are thinking about natural gas as electric fuel, it's important to know we get the natural gas, purchase it, and it's delivered to our gate station. And once it's there, we repressurize it. We add in an odorant called mercaptan, which is that rotten egg smell, so that it's detectable in case there's a leak. We then push that natural gas through our distribution system. And what's so critical about that and its relation to the Horizon Utility Campus is that this is going to really help. These 2 new gate stations are going to help make sure that we have consistent and reliable natural gas supply for those natural gas generation units. We call that firm load, that consistent supply of natural gas that helps keep those generators running smoothly, especially during time of high demand. In addition to the Horizon Utility Campus, there are several other projects underway that are located in very close proximity to the Horizon site, and they are critical to support this transition we've been discussing about our energy future. These projects, which are taking place, that I want to draw your attention to specifically because they will directly impact, in part, the same community areas as the Horizon project. The first is the Downtown Military and Gas Resiliency Project. I've mentioned the 2 gate stations that will be added to the Horizon Utility Campus. That is in direct connection to the Downtown Military and Gas Resiliency Project. That project is going to ensure that consistent natural gas supply to the generators at Horizon and at South Plant, but it's also going to provide additional redundancy to our natural gas distribution system. Another important project that's in proximity to the Horizon campus is the Eastern Wastewater Expansion Project. That is going to be expanding infrastructure in the eastern part of our service territory for wastewater. It's also critical to help safely route discharge from the Horizon site through the wastewater system to make sure that we're protecting surrounding groundwater and the environment. If you have other questions or would like more details about these particular projects or any of the other projects you see on this slide that I haven't called out specifically, you can visit csu.org. And at the top of the webpage, there is a Building the Future tab with further detail. Okay, this is another great opportunity for a pause just to make sure we're not leaving any questions behind. Stu, do you mind confirming for me if there are any questions that haven't been answered yet?
No questions at this time.
Great. So this is what you came for. Let's go ahead and dig in to the Horizon Utility Campus. So we reviewed the electric system and how it operates. We've highlighted how both thermal and renewable generation sources work together to meet the current energy needs of our community. We also have a good understanding of our generation capacity right now, as well as the amount of energy that we're using. Finally, we've realized that we have a need for additional generation, but specifically a source that is reliable, but also safe for the community, works alongside our renewables to support our transition to a cleaner energy future, and that can meet that peak demand, which is especially during the hours of 5 to 9 p.m. on weekdays. Enter the Horizon Utility Campus. This campus is designed to support utility infrastructure for all 4 services in the eastern part of our service territory. The site is 160 acres that are located southeast of the Colorado Springs Airport. There is already an existing electric substation called Horizon Substation at the site, and that was made operational in 2024. In addition to that substation, we are planning to add those 2 new natural gas gate stations we've discussed, 100 megawatts of additional battery storage, 10 natural gas generating units to provide up to 400 megawatts of electric capacity, and a future service center. Most of the questions and really concerns are focused around those natural gas generators. So we're going to spend some time digging into the specifics of these units and hopefully answering some of your questions. These natural gas generators, as a reminder, are not base load generation. They are intended to what we call follow or support other generation sources, specifically renewable sources like wind and solar. This really helps us ensure the reliability of that energy supply when the sun isn't shining or when the wind isn't blowing. And it helps us also meet that peak demand from that 5 to 9 p.m. timeframe on weekdays. Some important details about these generators. They will not be taller than any of the current electric infrastructure at the Horizon substation that is there right now. The generating units, including the stacks, are shorter than all of the poles that are currently on the site now. These generators use top-tier controls that help us control emissions even further. And there are 2 types of post-combustion controls. The first one is a selective catalytic reduction, and that is meant to control nitrogen oxide emissions. The second is an oxidation catalyst, and that is meant to control or reduce the carbon monoxide and the volatile organic compound, or VOC, emissions. These units, another really interesting fact about them, as we're looking forward to our energy future, these units are hydrogen capable. So as hydrogen technology becomes more abundant and becomes a part of the energy future, we can modify these units to be compatible with hydrogen. Also, one of the natural gas gate stations that we are adding and the pipeline connected to that will also have hydrogen capability. So we're investing in infrastructure now that has the ability to translate with new energy technologies of the future. One question we received from you all, our customers, is around the difference of the simple cycle turbine versus the combined cycle turbine, specifically for these units. Why did we choose simple cycle turbines versus combined cycle turbines? The simple cycle turbines are used really for that load following application, meaning when we need a generation source to support other generation sources like renewables, the simple cycle turbines make the most sense because they have a much shorter dispatch or ramp rate, meaning that we can bring them online much more quickly in about 10 minutes. That rapid response is really what makes them be flexible and more suitable for intermittent energy needs. And that's really the hole that we're hoping to fill with these generators at this facility. Also, from an emissions perspective, the simple cycle turbines produce lower nitrogen oxide and carbon monoxide emissions because they have that shorter ramp up time. The highest period of emissions is actually when these units are being dispatched or turning on and turning off. Because there's a shorter dispatch time, that high period of emissions is also shorter. Another significant question, besides specificity around the unit itself, the units themselves, is the site selection. How do we even decide where to put new utility infrastructure and why? Honestly, locating utility infrastructure in a growing community is very challenging because the areas where the infrastructure is needed are often the same areas that have the existing customers living there who rely on that energy. So when we start considering site locations for new infrastructure, we always start by considering what's the impact on our community. Thinking specifically about the impact on our residents and businesses in the neighboring areas, as well as that environmental impact and what potential effects could this facility have on open spaces and waterways and wildlife. We then evaluate the technical needs for our energy system. What will this new infrastructure do for us? So specifically, we look at land that is already owned by Colorado Springs Utilities and really trying to look for land that's already zoned for utility use. For this particular project, we needed the units to be placed near renewable generation and transmission lines so that they could easily integrate into the system. We needed a site that was large enough to be able to accommodate the 10 natural gas generating units. And we needed the presence of existing utility infrastructure that is required to be able to operate these units. So this specific site at the Horizon campus was compared to 2 other sites with existing utility infrastructure that was already owned by Colorado Springs Utilities and that was zoned for utility use. And those facilities were at Clear Spring Ranch and Williams Creek Substation, and obviously the Horizon space. In the end, this particular 160-acre site was chosen because it did meet so many of our needs and did have the least amount of impact on the existing populations and the existing environment. It was already owned by Colorado Springs Utilities, meaning we didn't have to purchase land and add additional cost. It was already zoned for utility use. It provides the necessary space for all of the connections that are needed in this area. There's already an existing substation with transmission lines at the site, and the area is relatively less developed with a lower population density. Finally, it's really perfectly positioned to help us meet the future energy needs of Eastern Colorado Springs. All right. I know it's really dense and technical information, but I hope that you have a very good overview right now of the Horizon site, the natural gas generators at that site, and how we came to select that site for this new utility infrastructure. Finally, I just want to touch briefly on the timeline for the project. We have gone through the request for proposal process and selected our contractor, ProEnergy, who is going to help us with building these natural gas generating units. We're currently in design and working on the procurement or acquiring the items for this site that have really long lead times. We've also submitted our air quality permit application with the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment, and that is currently under review. And we've really started the heavy lifting on our communication with you all as our customers and our community members as we're really initiating this process. Once we receive the air quality permit, we will begin construction in 2026. And we will really focus in 2027 on making sure that construction continues and all of the connected utility infrastructure pieces are complete so that we can commission the plant by 2028. All right, we'll take another pause. I want to make sure there's time for any specific questions as related to that Horizon site before diving into your questions that you provided before the meeting, so we can make sure you're getting those answers with us here tonight. So Stu, another check-in. Are there any questions right now that need to be addressed that weren't already? Nope.
Nope, no questions at this time.
Awesome. You guys, we're doing great and moving right along. All right, so finally, our big lift for the evening really is diving into your questions and making sure that they're answered. First, I just want to say thank you to everyone who registered for this session and really took the time to submit your thoughtful questions in advance. We've reviewed all of your input and spoken to all of our subject matter experts to prepare these answers for you. And really what we noticed in your questions is that 4 major themes emerge. So we want to walk through those in more detail with you. Those themes are air quality in your health, the financial impacts of this project, property value and property taxes, and then finally meeting legislative requirements. So let's go ahead and dive into really everyone's most burning question, air quality and the potential impacts of this site on the health of the local community. So before we dive into the details, I'm going to give you a little background. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, they set national ambient air quality standards. We call them NAAQS. And the purpose of the NAAQS are to provide protection for the health of all people, including our sensitive populations, which are children, our older adults, and individuals with respiratory illness like asthma. These standards are designed to ensure that even long-term exposure to sensitive groups stay within safe levels. Here in Colorado, our Department of Public Health and the Environment is our regulatory permitting agency. And they run air quality monitoring equipment at locations all over the state of Colorado. The nearest monitoring equipment to the Horizon Utility Campus is actually located at the weather station at the Colorado Springs Airport, which is in very close proximity to the project area. To assess the potential air quality impacts from the natural gas generators, our environmental team used modeling based on the data they collected from CDPHE's air quality monitors, specifically at the Colorado Springs Airport, as well as other monitors across locations from all over the state of Colorado. What these modeling results showed is that even if we run the generators at their full capacity, as allowed with the air quality permit, the emissions from the facility would remain significantly below those air quality standards set by the EPA, meaning this facility is safe for our community. Now let's go ahead and transition to financial impacts and understanding how this could or couldn't impact customer rates. So back on November 12th, 2024, just last year, Colorado Springs City Council approved the 2025 budget, but they also approved a 5-year rate case. Factored into that 5-year rate case were several capital projects, and the cost of these natural gas generators was included as a part of that budget. What that means is that the natural gas generators are included in the 5-year base rates that are already being calculated into customer rates over the next 5 years. Now, I do want to make an important distinction here that the actual natural gas costs and the power that is purchased through the power purchase agreements, or the PPAs, which we discussed earlier, those are actually reflected in fuel rates, not base rates, and those fuel rates are set by City Council every quarter. On to property values and property taxes. While we are absolutely experts in the utility industry, we are not experts in the real estate industry. That said, we're not aware of any property value declines from any homes or businesses that are located near any of our utility infrastructure. And we're also not aware of any direct impacts on property taxes. A specific note, since this site had already been zoned for utility use, it's unlikely there will be any dramatic impacts in any way. However, if you have specific questions or concerns, we really do encourage that you reach out to the experts in each of these fields. The El Paso County Assessor's Office is a great resource for getting more information on property taxes. We do know also that some of our impacted customers live in a metro district, so I encourage you reach out to the administrative office if you do live in a metro district and ask about taxes there as well. And finally, you can contact your local realtor association for current market value data or to ask any questions about property value. And last but not least, what are our legislative requirements, and does this site impact our progress on our energy transition? It's really important to note that we are committed to meeting the state's legislative requirements, and we're also committed to continuing to operate that safe and reliable and cost-effective energy system that we have been known for. What this includes is making upgrades to the existing electric system and the life of our current generation resources, and balancing that cost to make sure that we're supporting the local economy while not forgetting about supporting the environment. Another thing that we're doing to help meet the legislative requirements is investing in transmission lines and substations that will modernize our grid, because those upgrades help us continue to meet the evolving customer need and also are preparing us for future energy solutions so that once they're available, we can adopt them more quickly into our system. As we've said, we are interested in keeping all clean energy options on the table, and that does include nuclear energy. We're especially interested in small modular reactor technology, but we are realistic that any potential nuclear project is likely 10 to 15 years away from being permitted and operational. While we did really attempt to answer the questions that you all posed for us, we recognize that might not be enough. And so we want to remind you that there are many ways that you can continue to have conversations with us, specifically about the Horizon Utility Campus, as well as about anything related to Colorado Springs utilities or our infrastructure. We always encourage that you attend utility board meetings and utility policy advisory committee meetings. Those are public meetings and they do have virtual options if you're unable to attend in person. So please consider those, and you can find the information about those events on our website. We also are present across almost all social media platforms. So please do search for Colorado Springs Utilities and follow us there. You can reach out to our customer service line at 719-448-4800. But we also, specifically related to the Horizon Utility Campus, have our community engagement team, and you can see their number, the 668-7765. If you have specific questions about that site, you're more than welcome to reach out to the community engagement team, and they will be happy to answer those questions for you. To be honest, you'll probably get me. So if you want to ask me any questions, you can reach out. We will continue to have open houses. We offer classes. If you would like us to come and speak for any of your organizations, you can absolutely reach out to us, and we have a team that can help facilitate that for you. We also offer coffee and conversations at our Mesa Conservation Center on Mesa Road on the west side of Colorado Springs. And so you can check our calendar and events for when those dates are available. Finally, we do have on the Horizon Utility Campus website a public comment form where you can leave comment about this project, and we do collect those comments. We take them to our project team, and as we mentioned all the way in the beginning, we use that feedback to help us make decisions, and then we come back to you to show how those decisions and your input really influenced our direction. And then finally, anything you would like for us to know, that again, that phone number for community engagement or the engage@csu.org emails are great ways to submit some questions to us to have them answered. Awesome. So it seems like we do maybe have a question that I want to make sure we get answered. Stu, do you mind? Or Steve, have you already answered that question?
Hey, Brittany. So yes, we do have a question, and
Great.
the question is, will the Horizon campus provide any new service options to additional customers not currently eligible for Colorado Springs Utilities electrical service?
That is a great question. So the only way that we are able to provide any service, whether it is electric, natural gas, water, or wastewater, is if that community or those customers are annexed into the city of Colorado Springs. And there is a process for that. And predominantly it has to go through city council. So this particular facility at this time is specifically to serve Colorado Springs utility customers. And so if there's any sort of interest in that, it would require, a community coming together and going to city council to become a part of the city of Colorado Springs and thus served by our energy services. I love that. What other questions do people have?
No other questions posted at the moment.
All right. Well, I'll just start some wrap-up comments, but please do reach out with a question if you have it in our final moments together. This really is the end of the presentation of information I have for you. I do want to thank you so much for coming and spending time with us. I know it's very difficult at the end of a long workday to show up and be present in a public process, but your thoughtful engagement really is critical to us. And we really understand that our decisions impact you and your homes and your future. And we take that responsibility seriously and want to make sure we're providing you as much context and information as we can. If you have any further questions that haven't been addressed, now's a great time to bring them up. Even after today, we encourage that you reach out through those platforms that I mentioned. And if there's nothing else, I just want to thank you for your participation and being a part of this important conversation about our energy future. Thank you, everyone, for coming.